and welcome back to History Home Learning. Today's lesson, I'm going to call it a lesson. Today's lesson is about immigration in Whitechapel. So I've set you some work to do in your work booklet, but I wanted to chat to you about it as well. So Whitechapel was always a really attractive place for immigrants to come. There were usually lots of work, either in sort of factory work or in loading up ships which used to come to the docks in Whitechapel. So you could be usually guaranteed good work. There was also quite cheap places to live, and if you have just escaped a poverty or war-torn country, then you're not going to have a huge amount of money. So that was a reason why immigrants wanted to come to Whitechapel. So they did cause a few tensions, a few problems, and I'll explain why. So one group of immigrants were Irish, and lots of people wanted to escape Ireland because there were lots of problems going on. Basically, they wanted to be free from the rule in Britain. As we know today, we have Northern and Southern Ireland. Southern Ireland are not part of the United Kingdom anymore. So that's kind of where all that started. So lots of people wanted to get out. They wanted to originally go to America. Many had run out of money and ended up staying in London in Whitechapel. So they were not too much of a problem. They were working hard. There was a fairly big group of Irish people working on the docks, living in communities, and also you can imagine they have big families. They'd encourage their families to come over to Whitechapel once one part of the family had settled there. So there was a fairly big group of Irish immigrants. However, because of the issues going on in Ireland at the time, this also caused some political problems in Britain. So the kind of radical home rule Irish people, they want to be rid of Britain ruling them. They were called the Fenians, and there was a lot of anti-Fenian tension at this time in London. They found a bomb in Trafalgar Square, which was several bombs around the city which have been exploded. There weren't a huge amount of deaths or anything, but they classed it as an act of terrorism, of course, because obviously it's not great if you're bombing parts of London. So that was a problem in itself. People also thought that people might be sympathetic to their political ideas, and they feared a revolution. It wasn't that long ago since the French Revolution. So these problems are still going around in Whitechapel. The other group of immigrants were Jewish immigrants, mostly from Russia, because at this time there were pogroms going on. So persecution of Jewish people in Russia, so they wanted to leave the country and come and get a better life in Britain. So the problem with these Russian Jews is that they didn't speak English, and they naturally formed their own communities. So they were all living together. They didn't need to speak English. They also had a very different culture, very different clothes and background, and so that made them stick out. Just as one example, their kind of their holy day is a Saturday, whereas in Britain most people were Christian. Their holy day was a Sunday, and they were kind of like rival trade groups. So if you don't open your shop on a Sunday because that's your religious day, it's your day of rest, whereas these Jewish people are, then you're going to go to their shop. So some business people thought the Jews were kind of rivaling their business. Because they found it hard to mix in due to the language barriers, the culture barriers, they did form these groups, and people were quite hostile towards them. They were like, oh, they're not trying to mix in, they're not trying to help themselves become part of the community. And so there were tension between all those different groups as well. So that is another element of Whitechapel and all the problems it was facing. So not only is it terrible conditions, not only is it crime is high, but you've also got these different groups of people attempting to live side by side, attempting to get on, and that wasn't always the case a lot of the time. So just more things to layer in our knowledge about Whitechapel.